What up, Hyperchange? Can you hear me okay? Got my mic set up here. Let me know if you can hear me all right. Wow, this is insane. Market is down about almost 8% as I'm hopping on this live stream. Just kind of wanted to say my thoughts. None of this is financial advice. Hyperchange is just my sort of investing diary. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but just kind of wanted to share with you what I'm doing with my portfolio right now, and how I'm thinking about the economic impact of the number 19 illness, which I'm trying not to address by name so I don't get demonetized. And I am personally not buying any stocks. I'm a Buffett-esque investor. I try and buy when the market goes down, not try and time these macro events. But I think this time is different, which is like the thing they tell you never to say. But I really do think this time is different because, all these people are like, oh, market's down 25%. That's when you buy. And I totally get that. And I respect that mentality of like buy low, take advantage of this opportunity. But the reason why I'm personally very concerned about this market and like why equities have not dropped significantly enough for me to want to take a big position, is just because I think this is a real economic impact. Like, I think what we're seeing in Italy with people, this mass level shutdowns, which has a huge effect on many different aspects of the economy, is just on the cusp of scratching the surface to spreading to multiple different geographies. At the point where now it becomes a game of, okay, we're not actually seeing an economic impact from the virus itself, we're seeing an economic impact from the panic resulting from the virus. But I think that in some ways is warranted because we're seeing where it's spread. A lot of hospital and healthcare systems get overwhelmed. When these hospital and healthcare systems get overwhelmed, that's when you sort of have the whole system falling apart and a lot of different economic fallouts occurring. I also think this could be a multi-month long, prolonged sort of recession, just economic shutdown where people are social distancing, quarantining. There's going to be a new normal for a while where people don't want to go out to restaurants as much. They're not doing things. I mean, look at what's happening in Italy. Like, they're literally like shutting down everything. You can't even leave your house unless you're going to like the grocery store or the pharmacy. Some of my friends and family in Seattle have been telling me it's really shutting down. Like, it's a ghost town. I mean, people are still kind of going out here and there, but the economic activity is materially slowing. So that's why I think this is very different than many other recessions or many other like pullbacks in the market, and why I'm personally not buying in right now. And I think the market has significant more room to crater because I think the earnings of the market are going to be impacted like nothing we've ever seen before since like an '08 scenario. And I think things are just going to get way, way worse. And a lot of these, 2020 earnings stories are going to get crushed. Like, we're talking about an impact to the fundamentals of these firms. This is not just a change in the perception of these firms. There's a true fundamental impact on the earnings, on the revenue, on the financial solvency of every company that's going down right now. And I think that is what should have people worried. And I just foresee, whether it's the US government or other governments, but if this continues spreading with the way it's going right now, like, I think there will be mandated like self quarantines. Like, we're gonna have to, my roommate's not going to work, all my friends are not going to work. I can just feel the slowdown already happening. And so for me, this is kind of freaking me out because I think the unknown is really what's so scary. I mean, the market down 8%, like, just this type of fall in the market isn't something we've seen since like the height of the '08 crisis. This is truly like a historic moment, for financial markets. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted to hop on this live stream, because I'm just like, this is, we're all learning about this insane, crazy sci-fi-esque case study in real time as it unfolds. And my personal analysis of the situation right now is we are only scratching the surface of the economic impact. Um, so I'd love to know if you have any questions. And once again, not financial advice. I'm not advising anything. Like, even just my opinions on Tesla stock. Like, Tesla stock has held up remarkably well, and it's funny how smart the market is. Like, all of these good businesses that I've been trying to like, I'm like, okay, I'm making my buy list. Of course, when the market's crashing. Why are companies not updating guidance? I want to get to that in a second. But my top of my buy list is Square, Spotify, Tesla. But I want these companies to get to much cheaper prices before I buy them. And I feel like they've been outperforming or like not really going down that much because they're such great companies and everyone knows that. Like, the market is really, really smart. And so why have companies not taken down guidance yet? I think it's uncertainty. Even they don't know. The only thing they'd be able to say, we saw Apple come out and say, we're not going to be able to build as many iPhones as we thought. People aren't buying as many iPhones as we thought. We're not going to hit our numbers. If Apple's saying that, that's less about Apple. That's more of a sign of the actual economy suffering. And so I think we're about to see, Q1 is wrapping up to a close here. I think Q1 is going to be a disaster for many different companies, especially like retail, food service, that travel, anything in those kind of buckets is going to get hit really hard. Maybe toilet paper companies and hand sanitizer companies are, seeing a slight bump in sales. But yeah, and then I think, the more and more I think about this, I don't know. I heard this crazy rumor that like there could be a multi-week sanction shutdown in the U.S. that's coming if things get worse, which is what's happening in Italy. And I think if that happens, like there is just gonna be, it's just gonna wreak havoc for at least Q2. Q1 is of course it's gonna be impacted, but I think the chances that Q2 is materially impacted and Q3 are materially impacted is going up by the day. And so that's why I'm not, and I'm like Tesla stock, I'm still more than double up for my Tesla stock. It's still soaring, like it's still way higher than it was a couple months ago before any of this was happening. And I think just, I do think this will impact Tesla. Like I think they have to build their cars with people. Like, this is a gathering of large people, which is exactly what governments are starting to recommend against. And so I think companies that are actually building goods are going to have a more difficult time than companies that are digital. I think a lot of these software Silicon Valley companies will probably be fine because they can just work from home. Zoom is crushing it because they're like one of an example of a company who's doing well because of this. But there's a lot of interesting implications with a permanent shift to more working at home. A lot of different stuff there. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But that's why I'm not buying stocks because I think this is just going to get on the cusp of getting way, way worse. And I really hope it doesn't overwhelm the U.S. healthcare system. But I think it's looking increasingly likely that it will. Okay, so now let's take some of your questions. Crypto is going down. I think that's interesting. Carnival Cruise Corp. I've never been I always kind of thought cruises were lame, and yeah, so I'm not going on any cruises, but I'm sure it's cheap to go on a cruise, and I'm not a big fan of cruise companies. But anyway, I mean, it's interesting to see Bitcoin crashing because I would have thought of that as sort of a hedge against a fiat system collapse, but this isn't a fiat system collapse. This is an economic contraction overall. So not, I don't have any financial advice. A lot of people are like, "Oh, would you buy or sell Tesla?" Like, I have no idea. Closing the window in front of me. Oh, I'm sorry about that reflection. I'll work on that next time. All right. Any other questions? What happens if the U.S. has to shut down a la Italy? That is what's on my mind, and like personally freaking me out just as a citizen of the U.S. is like, man, are we really going to get quarantined for a couple weeks? Like, and it looks like that could happen. I think the economic fallout of that, like the financial markets are freaking out now. Imagine a month of this. Like, I think we have this inevitable rapid rise of cases that's about to happen where just the amount of cases that is being reported and deaths is just going to go up because we haven't been testing enough. And as it spreads, it's just kind of the natural flow. So if you're buying into this market, you're buying into a, almost certain news flow of record cases, record deaths for weeks on end. That's not something I want to buy into. And then we're talking about what is the government's reaction to those increasing numbers? What is consumers' reaction to those increasing numbers? Where is the money going to go? I think everybody is saving up for cash. I was actually, for you've been following the channel, I've been trying to invest in SpaceX and figure out how to do that. So I've been saving up a huge chunk of my money to try and get a block of SpaceX stock. But I actually, like, I feel like that's moving way slower than I thought because of this. And now I'm even kind of like panicking, like, I don't really want to, it was already stretching myself so much. And I really don't want to, like, lock up a bunch of my capital. And I think a lot of people are thinking like that. Like, this is the time where you want to have a lot of cash on hand, like, because who knows what could happen. Like all these startup companies that don't only have a couple months of runway, their core business is crumbling, they can't make any progress, but yet they have to stay on payroll. Like what's going to happen? What gives there? Are they going to be able to continue paying employees? Or a lot of employees going to start getting laid off here? If that does happen, then I think, it's sort of the self-fulfilling prophecy of an economic cycle that we're watching here. It feels like a slow motion train wreck in the US at least. Like every single day we're getting worse and worse news. And so that's kind of why I'm personally like holding on to my cash, sort of going into like panic apocalypse mode. Like I'm not, my fear of just getting through this okay and being safe and just like personally like having enough food and resources is way higher at my importance level than like trying to time a micro pullback of the market. Like that's where my head's at right now, which is maybe really bad move. But I'm like, okay, this bounces back and everything's great in 3 weeks, and I was totally wrong about freaking out. Amazing, that is great news. Like I will be pumped, So like all these events, like Battery Investor Day for Tesla that we've been so pumped about, I think are probably going to get delayed or canceled. Definitely, if they do happen, probably remotely. All my trips in recent like that I've been planning for the next couple weeks and month have basically just been shut down and like preemptively stopped. And so, yeah, right. Where's the Cybertruck when you need it? This would be a great time. Ad companies, Google and Facebook, I think they'll do all right. I'm hoping that YouTubers like myself can survive because we can keep making content. But yeah, it's getting worse faster than I thought. I don't know. I feel like I'm waffling like 50% of the time. I'm like, this is not bad at all. I'm totally overreacting. Like China's already improving. Like things are going to be fine. Like totally buy stocks. And then the other hand, I'm like, oh my God, like, is this an apocalypse situation? We've never seen a virus like this before. We're going to be quarantining the US on some weird sci-fi, like, shutdown, like, martial law situation. Like, I don't want to own equities in that. And so, um, yeah, I should wash my hands. Sorry about that. Um, Tesla supply chain disruptions. I think there's a lot of potential for total huge supply chain disruptions. I mean, what I've been hearing is that retail companies like makeup companies and some of the startups my friend work at who like have stores and product, they're already seeing Q1 comps in a lot of major cities like go way below what they thought. I think supply chains in China are significantly disrupted. There's just a lot of different facets to how this is going to leach into different parts of the economy that we don't know yet. So that's my biggest sort of high level takeaway of like why I'm not buying stocks, why I'm freaked out about this, because you're not buying the same company you were a month ago. That's the difference. Is like, oh, the market panics 10 or 15%, but you're buying that same company, nothing changed. No, things have changed. The reality, the underlying financials and firms and solvency of every single company has changed. And I think that is this is not a freak out reaction. This is like a justified re-rating of the market because of the re-rating of the global economy, because of everyone shutting down because of this virus. Like Russia and Saudi Arabia getting into a price war, pushing oil to this type of low. I mean, that should be a signal to you of how desperate things are, and how much of a global slowdown that really high up people are concerned about because, you know, oil prices to see them crater like this because demand is slowing down, because the economy is slowing down, because all these, international treaties are falling apart and they're just flooding the market. Like, I think that's a geopolitical signal of significant turmoil ahead as well. I'm still holding all my stocks for what it's worth. Like I haven't sold anything. Like I'm just holding. I don't, I'm not going to buy into the panic, but I'm also not the person who sells into the panic. Usually I like to think of myself as someone who buys on weakness, but I just can't do it right now. And it's also like the market's been going up for 12 years straight. Take a look at the chart of the market. We're like where we were like a year and a half ago. Like, you know what I mean? We're still trading like 15 times normalized earnings, and I think those earnings are going to get crushed. So I'm really not convinced the market's cheap if this gets worse. What price would I buy Square at? So I'm totally looking to buy Square and Spotify. Spotify, it's like, give me that under 100. Square, I want Square to be in the 30s, honestly, or 20s. I think Square is going to get hammered. I mean, every single artisanal little shop that uses Square, that is all of their payment volume, like, is going to shut down. They're going to get totally impacted. This is a huge, real impact to the biggest piece of Square's business. So that's why I think Square, I'm like, yeah, this would have been a good price to get in if everything was fine, but Square's going to have 2 or 3 quarters, Q2 and Q3, their seasonally best quarters, are going to be really ugly. And, their guidance is going to get thrown out the window. They're not going to be as financially stable as I thought. I think the stock should be reflecting that, and it's not right now. Why would Spotify get hit? Just because everything gets hit across the board. But like you're seeing, like companies with really strong balance sheets, companies that are digital first, companies that have amazing products and leadership and technology like Tesla, the market is not really penalizing those as much because they know they're financially stable enough to make it through. And when they do make it through, they'll recover. Spotify's probably might do fine because people are just going to listen to more and more music because they're just staying home, I guess. But the reason why this could even impact a company like Spotify is like, what happens if it's just a recession, like a global recession? A bunch of people are losing their jobs. They can't afford Spotify subscription. That is where, every type of company could get into trouble, even like Netflix staying at home. Well, what if you just can't afford Netflix because you just lost your job, and you can only afford Disney Plus? Like that would be tragic. No, sorry, I shouldn't have made that joke. But so any other questions here? Pennsylvania just closed all schools. I know Seattle closed all schools. Nikola IPO. Oh my God. Talk about the worst company on the planet. Nikola Motors is this hydrogen truck company that is like worth billions of dollars with a really crazy CEO. I think that is like one of the biggest scams ever. They sued Tesla for the look of the cyber or the look of their semi truck, stealing the look of their semi truck. When you're a startup and you're willing to spend millions of dollars to sue a company like Tesla for a design thing for your product that doesn't even exist, it's like, what are your priorities? You should be building your thing. They're all about optics. They're all about making a splash. They're all about, yeah. I think Nikola Motors is totally vaporware. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, that's actually a really interesting point, and this is something I want to bring up. The amount of people that coronavirus has killed versus the amount of people the flu kills every year. A, look at the rate of increase of those deaths. Like we're trying to get ahead of this, not behind it. So if you look at that rate of increase, you're really just guessing right now whether or not the deaths from coronavirus impact the flu. And the other thing is, this is incremental. Like the stress on that, like the healthcare system is pretty fragile. Like, okay, you can say it's robust in certain countries, not robust in other. The healthcare system is fragile. Like if you have an incremental, flu size thing that happens that hits hospitals, like that's a really big thing. And like one thing I've been reading about in Italy, like I don't know, I'm half Italian. A bunch of my family, ciao, is in Italy, and like it's really sad. And like what's going on there is hospitals are getting overwhelmed, and they're kind of fast forwarding onto where we could be in this situation, which is what's freaking me out. And then healthcare workers get sick, and then the healthcare workers, like, they don't have lives. They can't even see their family because they might be infected. They're working 24/7 at these hospitals, like that are super crowded. There's too many beds. I'm even hearing rumors they have to prioritize who they're going to keep alive based on who they think will survive. So like this is like really scary apocalyptic you know like situations here, that is really really scary. So that's why when I think people say like, oh well, the flu kills this many, corona's only killing this much. Look at the rate of growth. If you guys have been following hyperchange and you know about why Tesla's valued more than every other car company, even though they sell less cars, it's because things are forward looking. We're talking about projecting the future. So that's a big reason. The other big reason is this is all incremental. Yeah, why not average down? Whoever asked me that. A, because I want cash on hand in case things get really bad. B, because I think the economic impact of this is legitimate and we have not seen remotely close to the bottom of financial markets. That is my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do with that. That's just my opinion. And a lot of people are like, Gal, you've never seen a recession. How do you even know that? And I actually bought my first stock in 2007 before the Great Recession, and it got hammered. And I did learn a lot from that. And I feel like we went to business school at a really weird time. Like my roommate Leo and I, like it's like I feel like a lot of people our age, I'm 27. Like it's like we got imprinted of recession. Like things can get really ugly really quickly. Like that was the first stock I bought. Within 6 months, it's like cut in half and the entire economy's crumbling. And I'm like, wow, that's what the stock market can do. So I feel like this is the second time in my life where it's just been 8% down from multiple days in a row. Nobody can see the light. That uncertainty is really dragging the market. So I'm just going to do a quick market check here. Yeah, so still down 8%. I think an economic impact about this that a lot of people have not priced in or just really thought about is that I think this will drive a huge portion of the modern financial world into negative interest rate policy, including the US. We've seen the US cut, the interest rate, the Federal Reserve's interest rate by, hundreds of basis points amidst every recession. We don't have hundreds of basis points to cut before going negative. So I think there's a good chance we go NERP, negative interest rate policy, which has like so many weird implications. But anyway, I think that's another fallout of this. Yeah, I'm trying to read all your questions. Housing prices are going to get hit. Um, I don't think many stocks are undervalued right now. I actually think a significant amount of stocks are overvalued still. Um, what's a good price for Tesla? I mean, it depends how bad this gets. I think Tesla's capital raise, I think Tesla will survive for sure. Oh, Jack, talking about Bitcoin, you missed it. But yeah, I think Tesla will survive. But it could get ugly. Like I think people will stop buying cars. And I think there could be some supply chain disruptions with China. Um, and I think, yeah, it's going to slow down Tesla's business. So when I see Tesla at $550 a share, I'm averaging at 250. I'm like, and I'm like, well, I think this is about to get totally impacted. Like, I think Tesla is a little bit valued in the near term. Their $2 billion capital raise, I'd feel bad for like kind of not being on the side of that. But wow, that was genius. Maybe they predict this Corona thing way better than I did. But I would personally get pumped about buying Tesla at like 300 or 250. That's probably not what you want to hear, but that's just my average cost is even lower than that. But that's where I'd be pumped about buying it. And I actually think it could go there if this gets worse and maybe even lower. Um, oh, you guys like that hat? Yeah. Um, Even though I'm not investing, but I just thought it was a cool hat because we're talking about the markets. Um, sure, Apple. I don't know about that. Apple's a great company. Um, Robinhood, man, I think Robinhood. Okay, so this Robinhood thing, man, I'm feeling some type of way about this because I've been a hater of Robinhood for a while, and their app is going down. It looks like they maxed out their credit line. Like I think you are insane if you trust any material portion of your net worth to an investing app whose business model is selling your order flow to hedge funds and that is unprofitable. Like if that is where is that if that is the counterparty you want with your lifetime of capital, like go for it. But I use Vanguard as my broker because I'm like, oh, did I say the C word? Oh, I meant illness 19. Um, what does Archimess say? Where do I have stocks right now? I'm all in Tesla. Yeah, I think that could get in serious legal trouble. Oh, TD Matrix. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting off track. This is an awesome live stream. So many are tuning in right now. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll just summarize my thoughts here if there's been missing. I think this is not just your typical market pullback. This is a global economic contraction. The market impact isn't the market crashing is just a fallout of this true core earnings potential of humanity taking a hit in the near term, and the uncertainty of that earnings potential of humanity being priced into markets is why we're seeing this volatility and fluctuation. And I think it's significantly justified when you look at what's been happening in Italy, the governmental actions, how that could extrapolate to every other major global economy. This is a reason to be concerned that could last several quarters, that will impact the financials of a lot of companies. A lot of financially insolvent companies or companies that don't have solid footing or balance sheet are at serious risk of going under or raising equity or debt on not good terms. This is we're watching potentially in slow motion a massive global financial and just economic recession unfold, and that is what I think is happening, and I think it could get a lot worse. And so I personally am not buying any stocks right now. That's not my not financial advice. If I do start buying, I'll totally hop on a live stream and talk about it, talk about why. But that's where I'm at right now, and it's honestly really scary. So I hope all of you are safe out there and are taking precautions. And I'm just wishing you, sending good vibes, just wishing the best because yeah, it's scary times. There's no way to think about it. Seeing the market down down 8%, down 5%, then down 8, like this is historic. Like this is truly historic. It's crazy. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. You are all awesome. Stay safe out there. Good luck navigating the markets. See y'all next time. Peace out.